Hello and welcome, my dear students, to the final segment of our unit, Elements of Writing. And this is from your book, Writing for Academics and Professional Success. So let's move on to the remaining portion of our unit. Comparison and contrast. It's a basic human impulse. Comparing is finding out similarities, and contrasting is finding out differences. And that's what I told you, it's a basic human impulse. Now, why are we using this rhetorical mode? To analyze the subjects by either comparing them or contrasting them, or using both. A comparison and contrast essay has an introduction and conclusion, as usual, as with all the other essays. And the objective or the aim of comparison and contrast essay is to analyze the subjects. To analyze the subjects, we have two different ways, two different methods. First one is you discuss the similarities in one part, and the other part you discuss the differences. That's the first method. The second method is that you identify certain points and you analyze these points with reference to the items present. Items are the two different subjects that we are dealing with, and that's how you do it. Let us see how subjects are being analyzed with the help of a comparison and contrast essay. Now I take the example of green sea turtle and loggerhead sea turtle. Turtle. Ama. So green sea turtle, loggerhead sea turtle. It's a bit difficult for the pronunciation and all that, but it is there in your textbook and you're supposed to know. So as I told you, the first method is in a comparison contrast essay is you first discuss the similarities, then you go to next paragraph perhaps and go to the differences, and you discuss that in two different parts. So first let me tell you about green sea turtle, that it nests along the Pacific and Atlantic shores, and loggerhead sea turtle also nests along the Atlantic and Pacific shores. When I go to next point, I say that the green sea turtle tends to be or remain along the coastline. At the same time, the loggerhead sea turtle also tends to be along the coastline. That is where it exists or where it remains. It is found over there. So now I talked about, or I discussed about similarities. Now as a next paragraph, let me discuss the differences. Green sea turtle is found or it's included in the endangered list, whereas loggerhead sea turtle is included in the threatened list. So it is different. Green sea turtle is herbivorous and loggerhead sea turtle is carnivorous. So now I discuss the differences. What is endangered, threatened? I hope you know, but still let's quickly brush up your memory. Endangered is you always near extinction. Extinction means you never exist on earth as being extinct. So that is endangered. Threatened list means in near future you can be found in that endangered section. Now you are just threatened only, but later in near future you can find your name in the endangered list. That is threatened. So endangered, threatened. About herbivorous and carnivorous. Herbivorous feeding on plants, carnivorous feeding on other animals. So now we discussed the similarities in a paragraph and differences in another paragraph. We are splitting them. Now coming to the second method. Second method is, that is, you identify the points, and based on that point you make a reference to both the subjects. Here our subjects are turtles, that is green sea turtle and loggerhead sea turtle. So first I take or identify the item or the point that their nesting place. So when I talk about nesting place, I talk about both the subjects, that is green sea turtle nests along Atlantic and Pacific shores. At the same time, a loggerhead sea turtle also nests along Atlantic and Pacific shores. Now second point, the list. Second point is the list. So green turtle belongs to endangered list and loggerhead sea turtle belongs to the threatened list. The next is their eating habits. So eating habits, green sea turtle is herbivorous, loggerhead sea turtle is carnivorous. The next point is their the place where they tend to be, where they are found. So here when we talk about green sea turtle, you can say that tends to be along the coastline, or you can also say that both green sea turtle and loggerhead sea turtle tend to be along the coastline. And these are the two different methods that you can use to analyze subjects in a comparison and contrast essay. The examples given in your textbook on comparison and contrast essay, one is that which we discussed just now, that is green sea turtle and loggerhead sea turtle. Second one is the previous and current methods of communication. Previous methods of communication were, as I remember, is a land phone, letters, telegram. There was a device called pager. I don't know how many of you have heard about it. There was a device called pager where you leave messages for another person, that is there. Now current methods of communication, you all know, a land phone. Communication can be a part of mass media also in general. Anyway, land phone or any social media handles, land phone, mobile phone, social media handles like Twitter, Facebook, WhatsApp, Instagram, Telegram, you all know, I need not say. So those are the examples. Now sample topics for comparison and contrast essay. One is village and city, the other one LCD TV, LED TV, e-books and printed books. You can make detailed comparison and contrast on these topics. Now words and phrases for comparison and contrast. Similarities, when you compare, you can use likewise, in a similar fashion also. And when you discuss differences, you can use unlike, conversely, contrary to, on the other hand. All these are words and phrases that you can employ in the essay. In page number 110, you have a question based on comparison and contrast essay. It goes like this: bring out the characteristics of a comparison and contrast essay. So all the points that we have discussed just now, a few minutes before, can be incorporated when you write this answer. Cause and effect essay. Cause, karanam, the reason for something. Effect, the results. എന്തിൻ്റെങ്കിലും ഒരു പരിണിതഫലം, the results. So in regular interactions, you talk about the cause or the reasons for something and the resultant effects of that particular incident. But in academic writing, for analyzing a subject, you have to incorporate the cause and effect analysis. For instance, in business studies, if you're given an assignment, you will have to examine or explain the causes or the reasons of a particular consumer behavior and the resultant effect on the sales of the product. Now, the sample topics given in your textbook for the cause and effect analysis to write essays are demonetization, അതായത് നോട്ട് നിരോധനം, നിങ്ങൾക്ക് അറിയുന്നുണ്ടാവും, the cause and the effect it had on our society. Child obesity, പൊണ്ണത്തടിയാണ് വണ്ണം വെക്കുന്നത്, maybe because of junk food, those are the causes. Effects are the health issues. The poor unemployability of graduates, the cause or the reasons why there is so much of unemployed youth among us, and the effect it has on the society, on their future. So all these are sample topics. There are many features for cause and effect essays. It is mandatory that you inquire the reasons and explain the effects of a cause and effect essay. Inquire the reasons. അതിൻ്റെ കാരണങ്ങൾ നമ്മൾ അന്വേഷിക്കുക. And to explain the effects. അതിൻ്റെ പരിണിത ഫലം, അതിൻ്റെ റിസൾട്ട്സ് നമ്മൾ വിശദീകരിക്കുക. Both these things have to be done. It is mandatory. Mandatory is compulsory. And we usually inquire the reasons and explain the effects of an issue, of a phenomenon, or of an event or incident. Issue is a problem. Phenomenon, pradibhasam, നമ്മൾ ഇതൊക്കെ നേരത്തെ ഡിസ്കസ് ചെയ്തിരുന്നു. Then third one, incident or event, is a സംഭവം, ഒരു സംഭവമാണ്. Then the transition phrases or words often used in a cause and effect essay are nevertheless, hence, therefore, due to. Definition. Definition is explaining in a word or a phrase. It can be in a sentence too. For instance, what is a chemical reaction? Or rather, define chemical reaction. What is the answer? Chemical reaction is a process of converting reactants into products. You've got the explanation in a word or phrase or a sentence. Now, definition can refer to a concept, a person, a phenomenon, or a place. When you write a definition or when you define something, it can be in the form of a paragraph or an essay, and thus it brings out extended definition. In your writing assignments, academic writing, when you define something and the target audience is a group of academicians, പഠിച്ചവർ, scholarly people. If academicians are your target audience, you need not explain the technical terms because they'll be knowing it. But usually when there's a mention of a complex term, you have to explain. A complex term may have two meanings or two definitions. Like the meaning you find in a dictionary, the plain meaning, and the definition that is there or which exists in your discipline, in your area or field of activity. Suppose the word culture. Culture in a dictionary means a group of people, a way of life of a group of people, and their cultivated behavior, beliefs, values, the symbols they communicate, all these constitute culture, which is a way of life. But in microbiology or medicine or in science, you can use holistically the word medicine. In medicine, what is culture? Is it behavior? No. In medicine, culture is evaluation of a body fluid or tissue in a lab to detect the presence of an infection. So that is how it is different. So if a complex term is mentioned, you have to explain both the definitions. The dictionary definition, what you can find in an ordinary dictionary, and the one in your particular discipline, that field of activity. You've got to follow certain instructions for writing definition essays. If you are writing an informative definition essay, the suitable tone is that of a detached one and an objective one. That is, you should resort to an objective style and a detached style. Objective, that is, none of your personal evaluation is included in that. And detached, you need not get involved into it because it's a serious, grave issue. It's an informative definition essay. So that's the first one. Second one is that it should be logical and clear. Third one is that you should trace the origins of the word to be defined, and also you should explain its diverse applications. Diverse applications, that is, you should mention the areas or places where you can define or mention this definition. Coming to the origins of the word. The origin of a word is called etymology. When I talk about the etymology of the word biology, I can tell you more details that biology is derived from two Greek words, bios, which means life, and logos, which means study. Hence, biology means study of life, rather study of living organisms. So that's how I give the etymological details of a particular word when I define it. Now, fourth one, I should start analyzing the meaning of the word to be defined. For instance, I give you the example of post-colonial or post-colonialism. So I break the word into two. One is post, the other one is colonial. Post means after. I can mention that pre is before, so post is after naturally. And colonialization or colonialism or colonial means that it's a study of the exploitation of colonized people. So you know many countries which have been colonies of greater developed countries. So the situation after colonization that happened all around the world, all that you have to include in your explanation. So post and colonial, two different words which you've got to analyze. The fifth one is that you've got to exemplify, you have to provide examples. The beginning of the explanation or detailing of definition, I gave you the example. What is a chemical reaction or what is a defined chemical reaction? The answer is a process of converting reactants into products is chemical reaction. Now I have to exemplify it. I'll give you a common example. Iron plus oxygen is rust. It's a common example. And other example, explain personification or define personification. How do I do it? First, I give the definition, then I give an example. First, I'm going to define. Attributing human qualities to things or objects is personification. That is how I define it. Next, I give the examples from a particular novel or a poem. Lightning dance across the sky. Will a lightning dance? No. Is lightning a human being? No. But here I told you personification is attributing human qualities to things, which means that I have attributed the quality of dancing to lightning. So lightning as a human being is dancing happily across the sky. So there goes the definition and exemplification. Students, let's go to page 110 and read question number 6. Question is, how are thesis statements prepared for definition essays? Clarify. So all the instructions that I gave you for writing the definition essays and the tips that you should keep in mind when you write a definition essay, considering the audience, the explanation, the detailing, the two kind of definitions, the usual one, the one you find in the dictionary, the other one in your discipline. All the points should be incorporated when you write the answer for this question. Process analysis. The objective of process analysis is to explain the steps or the sequence of the functioning of something. Process analysis are of two types. First one tells you how something happens or works, and the second one tells you how to do something. When you get information on how something happens or how something works, you're being informed. So that is information process analysis. The second one, that is how to do something. You're given directions on how to do something. That is directional process analysis. Examples of informational process analysis is how volcanoes erupt, how bees make honey, how oil is being refined, all these. These are things you don't know, so you are getting informed about this. Examples of directional process analysis is how to cook a biryani or an omelette, how to assemble a computer by yourself, how to repair a watch when there's nobody to help you. All that gives you directions on to do something, directions on how to do something. So that is directional process analysis. Now the tone is different for both. When you explain or when you write down directional process analysis, you stick to a conversational style or a friendly manner. So there you use a second person narrative. What is first person narrative, second person narrative, third person narrative? First person is I, mine, my, all that. Second is you, yours. Third is it, he, she, they, them, theirs. So first person, second person, third person. So the second person narrative, when you use in a directional process analysis, it means that suppose if you're cooking something, first you take a bowl of water, or then you take a bag of rice, you wash it, and then what you have to do is that you pour the washed or cooked rice into a container, then you add some salt, then you add some turmeric. All that is you. I'm addressing you because it is directional process analysis. I'm telling you how to do something. So for directional process analysis, you have to stick to the second person narrative, you. Whereas in the informational process analysis, what I do is that I have an objective tone because I'm giving information, I'm serious. So what I do is that I use the third person narrative. I is me, mine, I, that is the first one. Second person narrative is you, yours, that I told you. Third one is he, she, it, them, theirs. So suppose if I'm talking about how bees make honey, what they do is that first they collect nectar from the flowers, they bring it to the beehive, they process it. So I'm talking they. So we stick to the third person narrative in information process analysis. And the transitional phrases that we often use in the process analysis are before, following this, finally, initially, simultaneously doing two things at one particular time. So all these are the phrases often used. Coming to page 110, you have a question on this topic, that is, explain the process of applying for a passport. So here, what is it? Process of applying for a passport, is it informational or is it directional process analysis? Any guesses? Yeah, it is directional process analysis because you have to do something on your own, you don't know, so somebody is giving you directions. It is not a process that happens somewhere and you stand and watch and be informed of it. So it is a directional process analysis. So let's go into the steps of applying for a passport. Process of applying for passport. First, you register through the online portal. Then you log in with your ID. Next step is that you apply for the passport. Click that application. Next step, what you do is that you fill in the details and submit. Next, you pay. You click the pay button and make a scheduled appointment. After that, you make the online payment and then you print the application receipt. And finally, what you do is that you visit the passport office where you have made a scheduled appointment, and you should make sure that you carry all your original documents. So this is how the step goes. Classification and division. When we talk about the courses offered by a college, how do we talk about it? Our college offers the following UG courses. UG courses, undergraduate courses. BCom, BBA, BA, all these are courses. All these are undergraduate courses, means that you acquire a degree after completing it. Now, I can subdivide BA into many subdivisions based on the main subject, that is arts, Bachelor of Arts. Bachelor of Arts is again subdivided into many branches. BA Malayalam, BA English, BA Sociology, but the main subject is BA. Subdivisions are Malayalam, English, Sociology. Similarly, I can subdivide BSc, Bachelor of Science, into BSc Physics, BSc Chemistry, BSc Maths. I can subdivide BCom into BCom Finance, BCom Cooperation. Likewise, I can even make genres of literature. Literature has genres like novels, poems, stories. A poem has subgenres of lyrics, sonnets, elegies, as I told you in my first class. Sonnet is a 14-line poem. Elegy is a lament poem or a lament song. And lyric is a short, simple poem on personal emotions. So this is how you make divisions or classifications, and again subdivide. What is the purpose of classification or division? The purpose of classification is to break broad subjects into smaller parts. When things or concepts are smaller, it is easier for us to understand, isn't it? Now, when you analyze things by classifying them or categorizing them or dividing them. That is how you analyze subjects. In academic writing, you can classify people, things, or ideas, and what you do is that you categorize and classify them and analyze them. Examples of classification essays are E.B. White's essay, Here is New York, and E.V. Lucas's essay, Bores. Some of the sample topics are types of websites, operating systems, and employment opportunities. Different websites you can classify, different operating systems, various operating systems are there, and various opportunities available, employment opportunities available, so that you can classify them. General guidelines for classification. The items to be classified should have a common characteristic or a linking factor. For instance, when we talked about UG courses that a college offers, we talked about BA, BSc, BCom. One is arts, the other one is science, the third one is commerce. But the linking factor is all of them are undergraduate courses or degree courses. Bachelor of is there as a linking factor or as a common characteristic. Although there are subdivisions of arts, science and commerce, linking factor is undergraduate course. Similarly, when we classify chemistry into physical chemistry, organic chemistry and inorganic chemistry. The linking factor is chemistry, though there are divisions of physical, organic and inorganic chemistry. The second guideline is that you should decide the criteria and scheme of classification. What is a criteria? It is plural of criterion, and it means it's a standard or a scale. For example, when you classify computers, you can't classify computers in general. What you have to do is that you should have a criteria, you should decide a criteria for it. That is, you should classify computers based on either motherboard or processor capacity, any one. You can subdivide, of course. So here, what you classify and the criteria of classification serves as the thesis statement of classification essays. So what you classify and the criteria of that classification proves as a thesis statement of classification essays. Now, the third guideline is that you should exemplify, which means that you should provide examples for each category. Fourth guideline is that you have to use certain transition phrases for better transition, like kind, class, first type, second type, and goes on like this, so on, so forth. Now, there are questions, again, page 110 in your textbook. Seventh question, it goes like this. Explain the purpose of division or classification essays. We have discussed that already. The purpose is to break broad subjects into smaller parts and then analyze it better. Analyze it for better understanding. Eighth question is this. What are the main elements of a division or classification essay? All the elements that I have discussed with you right now, that is the linking factor, the criteria, exemplification, transition. Again, before that, we have discussed about the analysis, and in academic writing, we break broad subjects into smaller parts, categorizing, all that you have to incorporate in this answer. Now here we have come to the end of the lesson or end of the unit, elements of writing. Thank you, my students, and bye for now.